Hello, everyone, and welcome to our next workshop here in our YouTube channel. And I'm so excited today to introduce you to Raj Dash. Raj is a published writer and author. He's a former publisher of Chaos Review magazine. He's a former software developer and currently a multimodal mindset breakthrough coach. His certifications include life coaching, hypnotherapy, emotion code, L3 Reiki, Pranayama breathwork, and more. He's an ordained minister, Reverend Raja Rawja, who combines these multi-modality skills to guide healerpreneurs and writerpreneurs through emotional baggage and mind blocks. And today, he's going to show us how he uses mind mapping for his writing. So please welcome Raj, and I will turn the floor over to him.
Thank you, Kathleen. So let me put on my reading glasses here. I've got a mind map to present how to use mind maps for novel development. And a lot of the techniques here will actually apply to scripts, or even collections and stuff. So let me see, how do I share the screen? Yep, I just have to choose the right one. And there we go. That should be there. Okay, so are you able to see this mind map?
Yes.
All right, good. Now, unfortunately, I have to crane my neck because I got a stacked monitor and the bottom one's not working. So the mind map software that I'm running here is called XMind. I'll get to that in a moment, a little bit more about it, but I just want to give a general kind of overview about mind mapping. So some of you might already know this, so I'll go through it fairly quickly. Way back around 1974, a British researcher, I think he was doing research into the way we think as human beings and techniques for recording knowledge and learning and so on. His name is Tony Buzan. He passed away a few years ago, but he put out his very first book around 1974, and I think I read that book around 1975. And he based his techniques on other similar approaches from Leonardo da Vinci and others. And the whole benefit of mind mapping is that it mimics the radial thinking that we do as humans. So, for example, let me just, are you able to read that, or do I need to zoom in a bit?
It's readable.
Okay, so it mimics the way we think. And because of how you do it, you facilitate brainstorming this way. You can catalog what you want to learn. You can catalog what you already know. You can manage projects. You can log references, and the whole approach sparks creativity. I often, like if I'm developing, say, I used a lot of mind mapping on paper when I was doing a lot of fiction writing. Later on, once the internet became more readily available, I wrote for articles for clients. And I found that often if I just wrote down the bullet points of what I needed in a list, my brain would think, okay, oh, I forgot to add this, I forgot to add this. And it wasn't convenient sometimes to write in a linear list, but in a mind map, especially when it's in software form, you can insert new ideas, new references, new topics. You know, you've got a lot of flexibility. And as a result of that, this approach can spark creativity. That's what I always like. That's why I've been using mind mapping on and off since around 1975. I've used it when I was a teaching assistant at university. I've used it in jobs. I've used it in planning my own. Like I published a magazine monthly, and I used it to plan each issue. Back then, I take a large 24 by 36 inch pad of art paper, blank, and I just drew my mind maps that way, or on a large sketchbook. So the whole approach, the benefits are quite numerous, and it's a nice way to plan without feeling like you have to have all the information, because you can always go back and add to it. Now, for writing, how have I used it? On paper, I've used it for novels and novellas. I don't think I wrote any novelettes, but I can't remember. I also put together short story collections starting circa 2002, and I planned about 100 short stories. I finished 60 of them. The majority were finished by 2003 or 2004. Later on, online, when I started getting writing clients online, to manage their articles, I might have, say, 5 or 6 different clients. They may have a specific topic, but there may be overlap between clients. So I'd use a main dashboard kind of mind map and plan out the week's work. And then I'd break it down into sub maps so that I can manage a specific client's articles. So I found that to be one of the most productive ways to do planning for writing articles. So it's applicable to script writing too. I've written, I put together, 5 seasons of an 80 episode TV series. I think it was late last year. I used mind mapping, mapped out everything, mapped out who guest actors might be, et cetera. And I mapped the premises, the characters that would be in each one. So, it's a very flexible thing. You can use it for more than writing, but it can be very productive way to do your writing planning. So if you're working, maybe am I going too fast, or?
No, I think you're fine. I think you might want to, your words are very legible, but we don't see a lot of your screen. So I think if you went just to slightly smaller point size, we'd see more of your screen.
It's too, I had it at 150. I'm sorry. I actually must have zoomed in a bit. So that's the history and the use. Specifically for novels, how have I used it and how would I use it? So it's kind of a mix. You mentioned to me that I should talk about how I've used it, and so for inspiration. Mm-hmm. So on paper, I use it in certain ways. In digital form, I might add a few more ways. So for example, you might start by having your main topic. So whatever the name of your novel is, I don't know if you can see, but let's say that, like you just enter the name of the novel or the series, and then you start taking notes. You just brainstorm. Start with what genre you're working in. Make some notes, like if you've picked say, for example, in Canada, there is a genre called speculative fiction. It isn't used that much in US terminology in the publishing industry, but it's sort of partway between fantasy, magic realism, and it's usually like a what if kind of thing. So let's say you say spec fic. A lot of them will come across as sort of science fiction-y, but you make some notes saying, example, you might write the name of a particular novel that you read that you liked, like say Charles DeLint from Ottawa, Canada. He writes a lot of these types of novels, the magic realism, and it's set in Ottawa, which is the Canadian capital. So it's urban, but it's kind of magical, mystical kind of thing. Setting. So in this case, you might write urban. Then you might start writing down your characters and give them names, give them backgrounds, add notes to them. You can even do, depending on what software you're using or whether you're using paper, you can add things like comments. Let's see if this is possible here. This Mac version of Xmind is a little different than the Windows version. So something to be aware of. Okay, I'm not sure where it is. This interface is new to me. I usually use my Windows laptop. I'm just using this for the workshop. But you can add whatever notes, age, sex, family, whatever, and then then you've got just a bit of a catalog of who is going to be in your story. Then you might make a list of plot points, whatever as you're adding, you can just put down whatever you think of first. Like, you've got, let's say if we're doing something like a journey type of thing, like Lord of the Rings, they are always they're always a quest style. So there might be some history about the land. There might be like kind of a narrative, and then there might be you have the protagonist, and then who are the players now, and what are their roles. So just very basic starting point. Then I'll get to the characters, and there's another aspect of the characters that I'll get to in a second, but I'm just jumping back up here. Let me close these so it's not too confusing, but I can always open them back up. So with characters, oh no, I already did that. With a timeline. So timeline, whether you're using paper or software, you can do this on paper. On software, most mind mapping apps don't have this. This is something specific to XMind. If they have it, they'll charge for it. Like MindJet in San Francisco, I believe they have timelines, but they charge for it, whereas XMind's free. So for example, my timeline of chapters, chapter 1, I make some notes about central characters, what milestones are going to be in chapter 1, and what plot points are going to be in chapter 1. Then I might have the exact same thing here, but I can add exact details as I think of them, and then I can come back and develop chapter 1 later. So, I don't have to worry. I've got it. I've got places to put the notes, and because it's not a linear list, you've got the flexibility of adding whatever you feel like whenever you want. So you can put all kinds of stuff down. And then if you want to work on something else, you can hide that, work on chapter 3, and so on and so on. So this timeline feature is very handy, but if you don't have it, you can still do it the same way as I'm doing here. You just have chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, like for each of these nodes here, and you can add information. So I find, for me, timeline is great for planning for projects, planning articles, sets for clients, planning novels or short story collections. That's a very handy feature. That's why I like XMind. You don't have to pay for this, and you get a lot of functionality with this. But this isn't specific to XMind. Most of this isn't specific. So let's see here. Let me know if I'm talking too fast. I do sometimes do that. So just want to make sure that I'm not rushing through stuff. So one of the things that I take note of, I used to read a lot of very long novels. I read a range of different genres, but some of the novels I've read are 600 to 800 pages. And sometimes there's an entire series of novels of that length. Right now on Amazon, there's a TV series based on certain novels. It's called The Wheel of Time, and it's based on Robert Jordan's novels. He passed away a few years back. So Brandon Sanderson, I think his name is, finished the novels, and the series is now turned into a TV. The novel series is turned into a TV series. So one of the things that I noticed in the novels compared to the TV series is that they'll get certain characters that don't know each other, but in the TV series, they have them interact sooner because they're collapsing the timeline in the TV series. But in the novels, certain characters don't meet until maybe the end of the story or something. That happens in Lord of the Rings, but they might be mentioned. So when you're developing your novel, you might have a note here for characters. You can write down your list of characters, write down their individual backgrounds, because you give them a backstory, they become more three-dimensional. If you just make up their name and their age, their appearance, there's no 3 dimensions. Whereas if you develop their backgrounds, when you start writing, your unconscious mind adds interactions and story points that become more realistic. It's easier to sell the way that you're writing it. So this approach with a mind map gives you a lot of leeway to develop your characters. And with the, you can also decide, you might have a list right here. Let's say character list. And you might write character 1 and so on. And then whatever their names are, doesn't matter at the moment. Then you can actually, let's see, can you see that? So you could actually take, say, character 1 is primary. Oops. There we go. Sorry. Not used to this Mac versions. Okay, so if you can't drag it, there's an easier way. I just copy paste, and let's say this person is a secondary character. So you can write your characters, and if you don't know yet what their hierarchy is, you can always do that later. So mind mapping helps you facilitate this kind of development. It's very dynamic. You don't have to decide something right away. And you won't feel compelled to. If you write it on paper, you might feel more compelled to say, okay, that I developed this character now, I think maybe they should be secondary. This is much easier to do. And so you can develop whatever level each character represents. So just start here when you're developing, and then when you've decided, then you can drag them into one of their buckets here. Now, another thing that I've noticed, especially with quest novels, is that there'll be a lot of history, and there'll be, you'll have dozens and dozens of characters, especially in quest novels, especially the longer stuff, fantasy series like Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, and so on. You'll get a lot of characters, and it's sometimes hard to keep track of who knows who. So I've noticed that classic novelists like Tolkien did a really good job. Frank Herbert and Dune, they do a really good job of developing their characters. But in more recent years, younger writers, when I say younger, some of them are like, in their 50s and 60s, but they're younger than if Tolkien was still alive, he'd be like, what, 100 something? So that's what I mean by younger. A lot of the writers, they don't always develop their characters properly. In the lesser quality novels in fantasy, you'll often have a character mentioned as if character 1 hasn't met character 5, but the author has written a certain passage as if they have met. So if you're developing a novel with lots of characters, a nice way to go about it is to think about their interactions. So if you think 6 degrees of separation, that might help, but you might not need it. But who knows whom? So there's a nice, easy way to develop their interactions. So if you say by chapter for your novels, you're going to say, these are the characters that are going to be in this chapter, because you got your timeline, and then you're going to introduce them. So there's different ways of introducing the characters. And if you're using Xmind, there's a couple of ways. One is a timeline, one is a matrix. This is not available in most software mind mapping apps, but this here, so there's this node right here called interactions. This will link, I don't know if you can see it, but down at the bottom left, there's different tabs here. And this is just in the Mac version. I don't think it's in the Windows version, or maybe it's recent. But if I click this link right here, it'll automatically switch over. Oh, it's funny. Why is it not? Okay, I'll just go manually. So supposedly if I click right here, double click it, it'll go over to this tab. So this is a matrix, and it's exclusive to Xmind software. Again, it's free, but let's say we go down the side here, character 1, 2, 3, 4. And character 1 doesn't need to meet character 1. But character 1 might meet character 2 in chapter 1. So in chapter 1, they meet. In character 1 and 3, their interaction goes like this. In chapter 1, character 1 learns about character 2. Somebody tells them or something. And in chapter 2, the two of them, character 1 and character 3, they chat on Facebook DM. In chapter 3, they talk on the phone. So you can develop their interactions this way, and so that there's your overall timeline is much more cohesive, because readers are more sophisticated than, say, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and they're going to notice discrepancies like that. So planning it out, even if you only manage it in your mind, planning it out helps to avoid discrepancies of characters not actually knowing each other and yet talking about themselves, about each other. So this one, character 1 and character 4 meet in chapter 5. So now with just in Xmind, because it's here, if I click on this link right here, it's supposed to take you back to the main, but for some reason in share mode, it doesn't seem to work. So I'm just going to manually go back. So then there's another approach. You don't have to use the matrix. You can use a timeline, and this is also going to be a problem. So I'll just manually jump over. So the same, I'm recording the exact same information, and I'm saying character 1 learns of character 1 meets character 2. Character 1 learns of character 3 in chapter 1. In chapter 2, character 1 and character 2 DM each other. So it's the same information as in the matrix. So there's just an alternate way to present how each character interacts with each other. And it's purely for the sake of cohesion in your writing. So let's go back to, and now going to just collapse this, get these out of the way, and plot points. So I don't, looks like I think I put it down here, or I didn't finish it. So, okay, I'll get back to this if I have something down here. Maybe I copied it elsewhere. So let's say we're doing a novel series or something, quest type, Lord of the Rings, Hobbit, that kind of quest. Wheel of Time, whatever the case is, or even there's the other, even with say, sorry, I'm drawing a blank for a second. The one with the dragons that was just on Amazon last year, Game of Thrones. So that's based on a novel series from the mid-90s onwards. They're all quest novels. So in your timeline, which isn't exactly this, it's not the plot points. Plot points would get mapped into the timeline, but in your timeline, you can use the timeline feature in Xmind to plot or map your storyline. So you can write down, okay, it's going to be a novel quest style, introduce the main character, so make your notes. Then progressively, you want to introduce companion characters in a typical quest novel. So for example, in Lord of the Rings, we meet, I guess, Bilbo. No, not Bilbo. We meet Frodo first, and then we meet Bilbo, and then Gandalf's coming on his horse and cart, and then you get introduced to the other hobbits and so on. So you're introducing all the characters. Then, of course, Gandalf says of some threat, and there's a journey implied. And then there might be some background activities like Bilbo's birthday, 111th birthday, and the fireworks and all the drama with the fireworks because the two cousins. Then there's the start of the journey and people get separated, and so on and so on. So you can use mind mapping as a very nice, flexible way to continually develop your storyline. You can also, if you're still doing research and you're not quite ready to write, you can do lots of cataloging of references and so on. Most mind mapping software allows you to add a link. So let's say let's see if I can pull this off or not while we're sharing, but maybe not. Let me see. 1 second. So I've got, let's see here. I've got Disney streaming. Oops. Okay, so let's say you can add to your so you can add to your mind map to these nodes. You can add a link to a page or a web app or social media or whatever, or even say a streaming video. So let's say I'm developing a story and it's based on something I saw in Disney. And I have a link just for my own reference. And the way I did it here, it's not active, but I can use the I can use the link feature. So now it adds an icon. If I click on that, it's going to bring up in a browser the page that I was linking to. So this is a great way to catalog any references you have. Oops, sorry. Looks like sorry about that. It activated one of these pages. There we go. Sorry about that. Yeah, so you can catalog anything pretty much. You can have links and you can do text snippets. I don't know this Mac interface as well as the Windows version, so I can't show you right now. I might remember, but basically, if you add a text snippet, on the right-hand side here will be an area where you can actually write notes. So you can add little things. Let's say you come up with a bit of dialogue that a character that you're developing might say. So you can write down notes, or you can just put it here right beside it as a topic. So you can just start typing whatever. You can add comments, and in software, the comments will go right directly below the node. So usually you don't want them to be very long, but it might be a reminder to yourself, finish this node, finish developing this character, or whatever. You can add images right in the map, so you'll actually see a smaller version of the image. You can add audio notes. This is specific to XMind. I think some of the other software may allow you. And some of them may allow you to have at least a snapshot of a video, a screenshot, but it may not be able to play. It depends on the software. So you've got a nice handy way to catalog any references for the development of your novel or script, whatever you're working on. And now for actually going ahead and writing, when you've got all the information you want, you might have a different map for each chapter. Just like I showed earlier, there was, let's see if I can find which one that was. Actually, I'll create it from here. So let's say that I want a separate map for chapter 1. So if you're doing it, you'll have to find something specific to the software that you're using. But in XMind, for example, you can do new sheet from topic. And it will create a new sheet, and it will put the new tab right here. So here I've got a chapter 1 tab, and I can start writing the actual text of chapter 1. I can click on there and I can type. So I can start typing, whatever. I'm writing little sections, maybe the dialogue for each person, the narration. I could interleave dialogue and narration in this chart, and you can choose. I just used what's called a write logic chart. All you have to do is select that node, and you can change the style. This is a logic chart, but you've got, I don't know how well you can see that. I can't zoom that part in, but you've got all kinds of choices as to what kind of a map that chapter map is. So then, you can start developing a chapter, and then you think, oh, wait a minute, I got some ideas for chapter 2. I'm going to leave this alone. So you click on this, you go back to the main map and go, okay, now I'm going to write something for chapter 2. And you can do the same thing, create a new sheet from topic, and it'll create a new map and put the tab right down here, bottom left. And you can do the same thing, develop chapter 2, stop partway, take a break, go back to the main map, and then continue developing. And then from here, you can actually add, say, I'm writing it here as a separate node, but you can actually go like this and add a node and say Google Doc for chapter 1, Google Doc chapter 1. And you can link to that Google Doc right here by grabbing the URL from your Google Doc, insert, link, web page. So it'll ask you to enter the URL right here. So your Google Doc URL, go there, and then it'll be hot linked right there. So these links will go to a map within your map, and the web links will go to a browser. You can choose which browser. So in this way, you can easily develop each chapter. And basically, let's see if I got, yeah, that was it. So that's the approach in a nutshell, but I can answer questions or go back to whatever.
Okay, I'm going to change the view here so we can all be present. Hi, Yvonne, welcome, Ruby. We have Raj here, and he is ready to answer any questions that we might have. Does anyone have a question to get started? And you don't need to raise your hand. There's only 4 of us. So just go ahead and speak up if you have a question that you'd like to ask Raj.
Yvonne looks like she's driving.
Oh, I'm parked this time.
Oh, you're parked? Okay.
Yeah. I don't have any questions, but I'm just so fascinated with the process of writing, and I'm just so thankful to have this like sneak peek into the fiction writing world. So thanks for having me here. And thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thank you too, Raj. I think what I've introduced to it in my class is using a note box, and my note box is behind me. And we use, in those of us who like analog, will use 4x6 file cards. So what you were seeing in the way of a mind map just made complete sense to me, because that's the very thing that we do with our note cards and introduce things. So like Yvonne, I found myself very interested in how you go about organizing a novel. And of course, it's lovely to see another whole way of doing it fully digitally, if that was something that particularly appealed to someone more than the note card approach.
Well, they can be integrated.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I can see that you could do some brainstorming on the mind map and flesh it out, and vice versa.
So
Yeah.
you can take your note cards. So I use stacks of cards as well. You can take your cards, and then you can scan them with just your camera, your mobile phone or your tablet, and then just upload them into the mind map. And so, like how I said cloud image, well, you can add an image right into a node. So you can take a scan, you can drop it right in here, so you'll actually see your note card. Mm-hmm. And you can expand on that there. So you can start analog, and if you want to digitize it, you can do that.
Mm-hmm. I could see also how you could do it the other way around. You could do some of your high-level brainstorming when everything is super, super fluid digitally. And of course, ultimately, when you're ready to put it onto a document, this certainly links very easily to a document, which is a pleasant aspect. Yep. So, Ruby, do you have any comments or questions?
I don't have any comments or questions. I mean, I think it's fascinating to see it, to see it broken down visually in this kind of format. So I don't know anything. I didn't know anything about mapping out stories this way. So it's very interesting to explore and learn more about it. So I really appreciate this class.
Mhm.
Yeah, Ruby, I don't know if you're working on any scripts at the moment, but this approach can be used for scripts. In fact, I don't know. I think you joined after I mentioned I mapped out 80 episodes of a 5-year TV series, 5-season TV series, using mind mapping. So it's great flexibility. Like I would have lost my mind if I did it all on paper, because we're talking 80 different episodes. But you can use this for TV scripts and movie scripts. I'm not sure what you're currently working on, but this is something that you might find may work for you.
No, definitely. It's definitely interesting to learn more about it and like see that there is a digital process that can be, to break down a story. So it's definitely something that's interesting to explore. Thank you.
So I'm going to go ahead and close the YouTube presentation,
Sure.
but please stick around for members of the Facebook group. Will be able to enjoy a private chat that will just be in the recording that's available to our Facebook group. So if you want to see what the chat we have afterwards, please join our Facebook group and you'll see the link there. But so now at this point, I'm going to say bye-bye to our Facebook group and thank you, Raj.
Thank you.